2000. And when we moved to these government quarters, it looked like moving to some kind of privilege. But using master bit and privilege in a sense, it looks like an oversell, right? But then I think we bought into some kind of illusion of privilege. The idea that, say, for a long time, staff quarters, government provided quarters had been places of privilege. If you read African novels, especially from the 60s and 70s, there are places where kids went to very good schools, jacarandas, of course. There are cars that drive big children from home and took them to school. But by the 90s, I think that dream had kind of fizzled out. We moved into these. A lot of people looking from the outside into the government quarters thought, oh, those ones are like kind of exclusive society of sorts. A place where some kind of softer silence, polite innocence of certain kind was there. But even now, I feel many privileged spaces are very quiet places. But this quietness, I think, is a lack of people not saying enough. I think that silence is where some kind of violence, deep lying violence lasts. So I think this is a kind of reflection and just thinking back about that. Yeah. Yeah.
So go ahead and read us your first reading.
Okay. The expansive, eternally present and mystical forest beyond the road behind our house held an enchanting allure for us, boys coming of age. It served the role of a playfield, a private sanctuary, and a store of endless mysteries. Some days, elephants roamed between the houses. Some afternoons, as we played in front of the house, a pair of beautiful antelopes emerged, calmly grazing to our door fronts. Some nights you could see the glaring eyes of some animal in the bush across the ditch. During daytime, as the mystery lasted, we ran carelessly in the bowels of the forest, tarzaning from branch to branch. At night, the shadows were deep and baboon barks urgent. The baboons, as if in search of comfort, moved to the line of riveria trees at the end of the third wooden cabin. You could smell their presence as we passed near those trees. The wood cabins both bore love and fear, and an in-betweenness of experiencing the nearby forest peacefulness and the chaos of the hospital wards. We soon learned that our house was referred to as condemned, a name that came to us in a slow, ebbing way, lapping on our own dreamscape, synonymous with a word that could itself be a prison. The rumors milling around condemned made our stay uncertain. It is up for demolition. It isn't fit for human habitation. It's not up to standard for government quarters. My parents plugged their ears to these cries but couldn't escape the uncertain night. The neighborhood transformed before my eyes into a chessboard as I made comparisons between our cabin and the other houses. The place was a bounded space of class orientation with physical and socially established hierarchies. These were apportioned in the number of rooms per house, or whether the houses were part of a line, or whether they were standalone, or whether they had their own compounds. One could see, starkly, the order of households as demarcated by its own hierarchies in its trash dump. Weetabix buckets, Zesta and Blue Band containers, and Quencher bottles spoke the unsaid. And yet the condemned wooden cabins were leagues ahead of houses in other government quarters, like say the prison quarters where my schoolmate, Ben and his three beautiful older sisters lived. Their one-bedroom dwelling had not been designed for a family, but for a transient bachelor. Yes, they believed they were better off because their neighbors lived in crumbling, mud, and wattle one-room houses. The prison had been established in 1930 when our town had not yet celebrated its 20th year. Its quarters hadn't changed much in the 60-odd years it had sheltered the prison wardens. In all the neighborhoods, the bosses weren't a distant or invisible force. They walked along the same roads, but they were taciturn, as if privilege was always meant to be a world apart. They locked their doors and stayed indoors. When they were seen coming from the far end, we stopped our games. Some women walked back into their houses. Everyone shared the same worries and were equally affected by the tanking economy and were subject to the same experiences. In our house, every evening, there was a renewed silence and a fear you couldn't exactly put a finger on